Welcome to the Elevate podcast, brought to you by the Registered Master Builders. Each week we explore the ideas and practices that help us get the best from our businesses, our teams and ourselves. I'm your host, Ryan Castle. We talk to experts, advocates and business owners in the construction industry to share their knowledge, insights and experiences to help you build a better business and enjoy a better life. Now let the business building begin.
What if your business ran as strong as your mind and your sales team led with purpose, not pressure? In this episode of the Elevate Master Builders podcast, I sit down with Logan Wedgwood from Advisory Works and beyond to unpack the connection between mental wealth, business health, and sales performance, especially in our high-stakes world of construction. From red-green decision-making to becoming a marketing-first builder, this conversation is packed with practical strategies to sharpen your edge and strengthen your leadership. Let's dive in.
Logan Wedgwood, welcome along to the Elevate Master Builders podcast. So good to have you on the show today.
Thanks for having me, Ryan. Excited to be here.
I feel like this is a backed by popular demand kind of episode. You were kind enough to do a webinar to our Master Builders audience a few months ago. We got incredible feedback on that and lots of people said, hey, we missed it. What can we do? So we thought a podcast is a great way to bring some of your incredible knowledge into our member base. So thanks for coming. Awesome. Maybe if I can set a bit of a scene for the audience today. Logan, you're a man that just seems to have a million things on the go. You're a dad, you own multiple businesses, you're a high performance athlete, you play music, you surf, you do all sorts. And so I'm going to throw some questions at you about how do you fit it all in? But I think there's a couple of themes for us to explore today that you are really, really well positioned to help us with. One is how do you maintain mental wealth when you're dealing with so many things on the go? And then the second one I think is that theme of business wealth or business health. It's not the easiest time in construction right now. Many of our members are doing it a little tougher than maybe they have in some of the boom cycles. So I wonder is that okay if we explore those kind of two themes today?
Yeah, great.
Let's start with the mental wealth piece, because we are firm believers that you have to be in a good mental wealth to be able to come and perform in your business environment. So, give us a bit more background. I mentioned a couple of those things several of the things that you're involved in that take up a lot of space for you. Tell us, how do you go about making sure you maintain good mental wealth?
There's a few things to touch on there. I'm not a psychologist, but I do read on psychology and things out of curiosity. There's a model that I learned it on a leadership course, and it's the Healthy Mind Platter. And it's 6 key things to take care of your mind. And there's things like exercise and sleep, which a lot of people talk about. And then there's talk about like downtime and having fun and those kinds of things. But one of the ones that I found really interesting was inward time, and creating the time to be still and let your mind, your brain kind of follow the threads and think about what it needs to think about can be really powerful. If I step back a little bit, I have lost some people to mental health issues. And so it's a very raw and very real subject for me. But then as a man as well, I've wrestled with it myself in those moments where I think because something like that works its way into your life when you lose somebody, I think it becomes omnipresent in your mental state as well. And so it can be really hard to get those kind of thoughts out of your mind. And I kind of feel like I discovered there's kind of 2 main things there. One is I feel like men really need a clear sense of purpose. And when friends of mine have struggled with their mental health, I kind of make up reasons that I need their help and ask for their help and get them focused on doing something for me or for somebody else in order to give them a sense of purpose. And sometimes that's just enough to get somebody started in the morning. The second thing that I learned that I think is really important that I don't think anybody talks about, nobody really says the words, everybody kind of dances around the topic. But what struck me is how sudden and instant and quick it is when a man reaches a moment where he goes, I've had enough. pretty much just happens right there and then, and there's no chance or room to intervene. We all ask ourselves afterwards, should I have called more? Should we have hung out more? Should I? It happens so fast. So the reason why your question is a beautiful question, I think, is because at that point, in my experience and the pain that I carry, is too late. Whereas when you can hit it off ahead of time, I feel like it's more around the balance of what you do with your day. So to answer your question about my busyness and how I take care of my house, now that I've given you some background, and I can go deeper in any of those topics if you want me to, but my day looks largely the same every single day, and I've designed it that way, and I stick to it, and I defend it fiercely. The first thing is I get up every morning at 6:30 and I go to the gym. And all of the construction guys I'm listening right now, like, you're sleeping in. But, for me in my line of work, I work, later sometimes. So for me, 6:30 is the right time. And then I have my bedtime, which is structured too, is 10:30. So 10:30, bed, sleep, wake up 6:30. It's the same every day. I go to the gym straight away. I start with a really good workout or some kind of physical training, and then breakfast, and then planning the day, and then into the day. The other thing that's really key for me is about connection, which is one of the other healthy mind platter elements. I will not sacrifice my meal times with my kids for anyone, for any reason. Like if I'm traveling internationally doing work, obviously then I do. But if I'm in Auckland and I'm working in Auckland, at 6:00, I'm having dinner with my family. You can't reach me, I won't answer, and I don't care if anyone doesn't like that. Because you only have 18 summers with your kids. And so those meal times are pretty important for you to connect with them and connect as a family. So that's that part. And then I get the kids into their routines and all the stuff that all the parents listening know about. And then the next piece for my mental health was what I discovered when I was wrestling with my own mental health. The eureka moment that I had because of my line of work. My line of work is giving myself and my energy and my time to other people all day, every day, same as yours is. And then I give myself to my kids and my wife and my friends and my family. And so I arrived at this point where one day I felt like I'd given away so much of myself everywhere that I suddenly found myself with nothing left. And I sat there, and it was a real sort of kick in the face moment. And I realized that I didn't have anything that helped me get out of my head. And so I picked up the guitar again in 2020, and I started getting guitar lessons. And every night at 7:30 p.m., I put the last kid into bed, finish reading the stories, and then I go into my room. And I play my guitar, and I do that every single day except Fridays. And every single day I will play for 45 minutes to an hour, whether I feel like it or not. And it's the only thing that I've found in my inward time that can take my mind away from business challenges, finance, parenting, et cetera, et cetera. So the music is a key part, the fitness, the sleep cycle, nutrition is a key part. All of those things together, but it's actually the structure that I put into a day that I follow day after day after day gives me the stability. And then when I have those challenging times that get us all, when I encounter those, I find I'm better equipped to have that self-awareness about how I'm feeling and what I need to do to change it. Get to the beach and get in the water, or pick up the guitar and play, whatever it is.
And Logan, do you ever try to get double benefit from that guitar time? Do you turn it into a serenade for your wife as well?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure she would want to leave the room. If I tried to play for my wife, she'd be out straight away.
Gotcha. Look, on a more serious note, I really appreciate those insights, and I follow a lot of the same things myself. I find shower time really, really important for my thinking, as many people do. The whole good ideas come, and I think it's less about the shower. It's actually just about being somewhere there's less distraction, right, and lets your subconscious go free and think about some things and come up with some really good ideas. But I love that routine. I do have a follow-up question is, for someone that sounds like you live quite a structured approach intentionally, which I love, what do you do when you go away on holiday?
A guitar goes with me, truthfully, always goes with me, unless I'm doing an overseas holiday. But funnily enough, I went to Thailand And I was there for, I think about 10 days or something. And so obviously didn't take my guitar there with me, and found a secondhand guitar store on like day 2, bought a guitar, and then, and it was, it's Thailand, so it's as cheap as, it's like $12 for an actual guitar, So I bought that guitar. I played that for the 8 days that were remaining, and then I left it there for whoever came next. And I thought that was kind of a cool way to sort of pay it forward. But I take my guitar with me, and if I can't get into a gym to do the kind of style training that I like, if I'm on holiday, I'll go for a run, or I'll go swimming, or I'll do something physical still every day, with the odd rest, the odd additional cheat day thrown in probably.
Yeah, I love that. And I find the similar connection with exercise and how good it is for my mental wealth. And I know a lot of the people in construction, they work in a physical role, but I still see many of them also go and do some kind of additional physical activity for the same reason. It's the mental piece that goes along with it, where it's disconnected from the work environment. Is really powerful for them.
Yeah.
Okay. Super helpful insights for us there, Logan. Maybe if we could turn our attention to business. We've got a time in the economy at the moment that is challenging still for many of our Master Builders members. It feels like we've got some signs that some things are starting to improve. We're seeing some slightly lower interest rates. We're starting to see things pick up a little bit, but we're certainly not at the boom times we've seen in some of the previous economic cycles. One of the hats you wear in the businesses that you own is advising organizations how to be more successful, right from a strategic level into things that they can actually go and implement. Can we explore some of the experience you've had working with construction companies? What have you seen help them kind of get on track, stay focused on what they're trying to achieve?
Construction related businesses probably make up more than 50% of our client base across my advisory firm and across my software. Advisory Works is a consulting firm that's been around for nearly 30 years, and so I'm the second or third transition of ownership. So I lead that company now. But Advisory Works helps business with strategy, execution, leadership, culture are the 4 pillars that we work with. We also do things like exit strategy, sales, and support with putting sales structures into business. And then we'll touch on things like finance and other areas too. So usually we have consultants who have a deep specialist area, whether it's finance, myself, it's sales, others have, acquisition experience, that kind of thing. And then we've got our broad frameworks that we use because they work with every business. And what happened in COVID was we were not allowed to do what we do for a living. The government turned around and said, you can't go into rooms full of people anymore, which is how consulting works. You get posted paper and vivids and everyone has a good time. It doesn't happen. So we go, okay, well, we need to work online. So we built a software tool that had those frameworks built into it so that we could speed up or shorten the amount of time that we had to spend online. It's pretty arduous doing 8 hours of strategy on Zoom. So when you can shorten it down and get it punchier, it kind of worked. So the software is what we call an execution system that businesses plug into their business, and it runs their senior leadership team, runs their meetings, hosts their strategy, hosts their actions, traffic lights, everything that they need to execute their strategy. So you've got to have a strategy first. So often people will do the strategic planning with us first and then put the platform in. So that's what my 2 businesses do.
In construction and related organizations, what are you seeing as some really important business health markers that you would be looking for in an organization as they execute their strategy?
So at the high level to begin with, the first thing I look for clients that will say yes to working with is this person or is this team coachable? If somebody's coachable, we can have a massive impact fast. But if they're not coachable, if they come in and if we say, hey, do you have this in the business? And they go, yes. And how about this? Yes. How about this? Yes. And then not really, but they're kind of saying they do. They're not really coachable. Whereas if we go, well, how good's your strategy? And they go, we don't really have one. And then we go, okay, well, what about your leadership? You're like, we really need to improve there. So when someone's got that mentality where they're like, we really need to improve, even though we can clearly see they've got evidence at the startings of those things, that's a really good sign. So coachable first. And I would say the biggest indicator of success in challenging times that I've observed through our client work is how much they lean into the courageous conversations. So we used just 2 indicators. It's very binary, and with us, it's red or it's green. And so what we challenge people to do is call it as it is. If it's in the red, call it as being in the red. Because when something's in the red and you just confront it and accept it, you've got a much faster turnaround time to fixing that red light. And then what we also encourage people to do is the green lights. Take stock of what is working and why it's working. Because too often we just get bogged down in what's not going well. Often there are things that really are going well. And if you double down on those things, they can help you go faster too. So I would say that when you're in challenging times at a strategic level, the important thing is to step out of, you hear people say, I wish I had more time to work on the business instead of it. Common as saying, taking that time to work on the business means stepping out of your environment. If you're always on the same sites, or if you're always in your office, or you're always in the same boardroom, those walls close in on you when things get tough. So you've got to pull yourself out of that, change your environment, and get somewhere different to think about what is changing in that environment around you. So we've just had 4 years of the most difficult years pretty much of any of us in business. I was in 2009. That was a walk in the park compared to this last 4 years, right? And at the very beginning of the COVID announcements, all of my consultants and I got together, and the writing was on the wall that we were going to be in a recession. It was just a case of when and which type. And so, for example, one of the things you can think about is, and strategy is sometimes a little bit about best guess. What kind of economic environment do you think we're slipping into? If it's a Great Depression, then all kind of bets are off. But I don't think anyone's predicting that because we have so many tools and levers at our disposal. So then we're going, okay, is it an L-shaped recession, V-shaped, U-shaped, K-shaped? How quick, how long, how deep? What is that recession going to look like? And therefore, when we apply different levers like finance or people or strategy, you look across these different areas of the business and go, what are the levers that I can pull to prolong my chance of lasting? We talk about that as being like a runway. How much cash reserve do you have? What are the 3 things that would have to happen for you to go broke? How do we mitigate those things? How long can we stretch that timeline out? If you're low on work, what levers can we pull to stretch that runway out? And then also, and this is the most important one, where is the opportunity? Because there is always opportunity, and we do tend to get beaten up and knocked around, and you kind of lose that vision. And so a really important element of tough times is having the courage to look further than the current environment and go, well, what do I want for my business there? And what are the things I can start on now so that can occur? So you combine those 2 things of looking forward and looking at the current reality, being very bold about what's red and what's green, and then being very, very disciplined and structured in your approach to executing the things that are going to make the impact in the future. And as long as you can keep your focus on that future, you can keep energizing yourself. I see people lose their energy when they lose sight of that future. That's when they kind of get sucked down into it.
Good insights for us there, Logan. And a couple of things you made me think about when you were talking were bad times are not always the worst thing. So often when we're in high growth mode, because we're riding a wave of economic growth, we tend to add fat to our organization, whether that is in resources, whether it's just things we've got a bit sloppy about. We end up with those extra 5 subscriptions on the credit card that we're not taking too much notice of. Those kind of things. We're grabbing work left, right, and center because it's easy, and sometimes we lose focus on what we're really, really good at. Yeah. And we've seen the example with many organizations where their top line revenue goes through the roof, and everyone's kind of running around high-fiving, going, "Wow, look at us with our multi-million-dollar revenue." And you're like, "What was your profit when you were half the size?" And they're like, "Oh, it's kind of the same, or maybe it was even better than it is now with twice the revenue." So sometimes these challenging environments force us to take a good look. And I heard you talk then about kind of like focus and what are the things that are really going to matter. I'm also interested, big brains like yours can think about recession models and whether they're V's or U's or K's. But the message I heard from you was, get really clear on the things you can control. So be clear about what your cash runway is. Be clear about the 3 or 4 things that if those happen, that would be a disaster. So how do we mitigate them? Have I understood that correctly? Don't get too lost in reading the paper every day about what the next economic prediction is. Be aware of what the environment might be like, but then get really focused on the things you can control. Is that a fair interpretation?
Yeah, it is. And you've raised a few really good points there. I'll give you an observation that I had about the economic shape that I think may have been what we have dealt with over the last few years. Anecdotally, I can see that there's a good case for it have been a K-shaped economic recovery. So a V-shaped is short, sharp economic recovery, right? So shaped like a V. So that's a short, sharp recession. A U-shaped recession is slightly longer. The K-shaped one's really interesting because if you think about it, what happened in COVID is exactly the example you just gave. Everyone who was in e-commerce experienced an exponential boom in sales online because we're all locked down in their houses. A bunch of cash got flooded into the economy and we're all spending and buying stuff online because we're miserable, stuck in our room at home, right? So we got this overconfidence and this inflated sense of achievement with businesses that were involved with e-commerce. And clearly it was, yes, ride that wave while you can, but you needed to be thinking about what happened when that stopped because it was always going to. So you got the upper arm of a K shape at the beginning of COVID, and even in construction, I know a lot of construction businesses kind of boomed at the beginning of COVID. But in the meantime, the lower arm of the K shape heading downward was tourism, events, and hospitality. Now, of course, they didn't have the luxury of making strategic decisions. They were making survival decisions, because their revenue went not reduced by 20% or 30% or 40% like a lot of us during lockdown. Theirs went from 100% to zero overnight with zero certainty around what timeline they were going to be able to start again. So your financial runway, if you're in those businesses, you were talking, how much money can I draw on my mortgage to keep my people employed for that period? How much wage subsidy can I get, etc.? So they were on that lower arm. Now, construction is struggling. Tourism and hospitality back on the up. So it's now an inverse K-shaped recovery. So I'm not an economist and I'm not qualified in that way. So, but that's just my observation. I kind of look at it like that, and it makes sense to me. So when I'm working with clients, I don't pretend to be the guy that knows the answer, right? I would never go into a business go and consult into a business of a guy who's been in construction 30 years and tell the guy how to run a better business, right? That'd be foolish. But what I can do, like you, with your great questions, a great question is worth, millions. And so if you can ask good questions, really listen, and really help the people in the room align around common objectives, that's when the business can get traction despite the difficult times. So when I go into a business, depending on where they're at in their journey, I'm trying to understand quickly the situation that they're dealing with. And then I'm trying to help them find the opportunity, help them fix the red lights, help the people come together as a team. That's usually the biggest challenge. And once you get those people come together as a team and get them executing, following a framework or a structure, and there's hundreds of them around the world you can find, that's usually the way forward. And to your point, there's a lot of bloat that gets accumulated in boom times that you've got to really take a strong look at during the lean times. And that, what in our experience, the earlier you identify the trigger points for making those decisions, the smoother the ride is later when it gets harder.
Indeed. And not only do we end up with bloat in good times, but we can end up with a overinflated view of how good we are at things. And I think sales in construction is a great example. When there is excess demand, minimal supply, you can feel like you're really good at sales because people are just screaming at you, can you please do my job? And it wasn't uncommon a few years ago for construction companies to be going, hey, look, come back and talk to us in a couple of years because we've got that much pipeline of committed work that actually we don't really need to talk to anyone now. So, come and talk to us in a couple of years. And it can give us the sense that, man, we are so good at sales. And my contention on that would be, well, the economy's made you sail a bull. I'm not sure you're great at sales. And I think, Logan, we'd be aligned around sales is about having a predictable system of selling in good times and in bad. So I suspect we've got some members listening that are like, yeah, you know what? You're probably right, Ryan. We did pretty good in sales. We got plenty of revenue in the door. We had plenty of good jobs to do, but maybe we didn't really have a system of building leads and knowing how to convert them and move them down the pipeline and acquire the right piece of land, et cetera, et cetera. I'm curious, Logan, when you're working with organizations and construction specifically, what are some of the things you talk to them about in terms of developing their sales system so they've got some more predictability?
Yeah, I love you. To respond to the first thing you said. We love to take credit when things are going well, and we love to blame other people when things aren't, right? So
For sure.
That's probably the first point. We love to take the credit when things are going well. So you're so right there. But if you've read a lot of books on sales or listened to podcasts and things, a lot of the older ones talk a lot about motivation. And I think the main point that I would drive home to anybody listening, I mean, if they took just one word away from our discussion today, this is the word that I would like people to take home. The word is discipline. Motivation is fleeting. Anything can change that can impact your motivation. Nothing can impact your discipline. Doesn't matter how you feel, doesn't matter what's going on in your life, doesn't matter how hard things are or how easy things are. If your discipline remains, then you can be successful. So if you look at sales through the lens of discipline, sales is a discipline that if you consistently do the right things, you cannot help but get results. Will you necessarily achieve the lofty goals that you set for yourself? Maybe not, but you will make progress, full stop. And often I challenge people in construction in particular. I encourage them to think about running a proper sales meeting. Because a lot of construction guys don't think like this because you're construction guys. You build stuff and you know how to do what you do. And oftentimes in boom times, you can sit in front of a customer and you can just talk about what you do and they will believe you because you're so good at it and you'll get a sale. But when there's less work on and they've got 5 people sitting in front of them who all know what they're doing, you can't rely on that. So when you do things like run a proper sales meeting with a proper agenda and capture those actions, capture those opportunities, capture those ideas, and get more people in your business focused on sales. I've seen clients of mine where, like a leading hand of one of their teams turns out is a weapon at sales and it never gone into that as a career, but you take them on site and put them in front of a customer and all of a sudden you're winning more work. They wouldn't have identified it if they hadn't been running those meetings and bringing the awareness to those people in that team. So running a short, sharp, effective sales meeting is one of the best things that people in construction-related industries can do, because how many of you are doing it? Like if 100 people are listening right now, probably 99 of you aren't. So if 5 of you did, what impact would that have? The second thing I'd zone in on would be the sales process and actually developing a process that you can follow with confidence again and again and again, because you don't actually have to be gifted to be good at sales. If you follow a process, the process will do a lot of the work for you. The third thing I would encourage people to challenge the rules a little bit. I believe in guidelines, right? And I think that the industry is being destroyed by things like tenders and tender requests and requests for proposals where 9 people are wasting their time submitting for a job that only 3 were ever going to get. And that's part of the reason why we have a productivity problem here. Often the people who are requesting the tender don't even know what they're asking for, right? And so how does everybody submit something that's meaningful? So when I say I don't believe in the rules, I mean, in terms of health and safety, I absolutely do. So
Sure.
Don't take it at face value here. But what I mean by that is you can challenge the process. You can challenge the way things are done. You can ask for things to be differently. And most of the time, it might not work out, but sometimes it will, because people will realize that actually, if we partnered instead, we could probably arrive at the end outcome that we wanted more quickly, with less cost, with less people wasting their time tendering. So I like to think about kind of the word ecosystems. If we can build ecosystems of companies that like working together, have shared values, respect each other's work, are truthful and honest with each other, and know the capability of those organizations, the right businesses will be working on the right jobs. So that's just a personal beef that I have with that whole process.
Yes, indeed. A couple of things that you raised for me when you were talking there, Logan, was around the discipline and having a sales process. I've actually this week just been reading a book around sales, and something that really stuck with me in it was how they measure the number of swings that their salespeople take. So they're less concerned about the outcome, as in the dollars in the door, but in all their sales meetings is one of the key tools that you talked about. The thing they're interested in is how many swings did you take? So, the activity element, the types of questions being asked, those are the things that they measure, because they know, as you suggested, you do enough of the right things, you end up with a good outcome. But if you get to every sales meeting just going, did you close a deal? Did you close a deal? Did you close a deal? It's like, doesn't take us anywhere, right? So what's the activity? I love that.
I'm familiar with the concept of lead indicators, because the way that I like to visualize it is you can't sit there, hold the prospect's hand and force them to sign the contract. So measuring and trying to control the outcome is a waste of time. And, that whole concept of controlling the inputs, I love that. And I love the swings that you take. When I develop a scorecard for a business, it's 5 or 7 things usually that are inputs that we can control, that if we do the volume of activity, then chances are we'll get to the outcomes at some point. And whether, people like to say, did you hit your targets this month? I'm like, are you really pissed off if it's 2 days after the month ends? Like, you still got the outcome. Who said it had to be 2 days earlier, So yeah, great. I love that.
Continuing on with the process piece, I was talking to someone that was in due diligence about buying a construction business, and it was more in the kind of repair and remodel kind of zone. So not new builds, not ginormous extensions, but in that kind of repair and remodel. And he had determined that the average close rate for quotes submitted industry wide was less than 15%.
Yeah.
In the business he was looking to buy, their close rate was 73%. So
Wow.
Just a ginormous difference.
Wow. Yeah.
And he said the key thing was they have a process of following up their quotes. That simple. They have a process that is like, email, phone call, whatever their process is, but they have a process to follow up their quotes. And they said, most of the industry submits the quote and then waits to hear back.
Yes.
And of course they don't, and just simply having a process that changed their metric in the amount of business closed ginormously, just because they had a process to follow up.
Yeah.
And my final thought that you really made me think about is we worked with one of the large group home builders for a long time in the New Zealand market, and what really occurred to me is they are not construction companies. They are sales and marketing companies with some good project management. That's what they are. And I think many of our members, if they were to go, hey, if I was really focused on being a sales and marketing business with great project management, what would my organization look like compared to I'm a builder that hopes to get some sales? Yeah,
you're so right. I think I really like the game of sales. I see it as a game that's good fun to play. And I really enjoy it. I think it's got a bad reputation and a bad rap because of the way in the past that people have been taught to sell kind of felt like trickery. A lot of people say, oh, no, I'm not a salesperson. I could never do that. And it breaks my heart when I hear people say that, because I can teach literally anybody to be able to sell. Will you be the best salesperson on the planet? No, there are people who are naturally talented and gifted, sure. But I can teach anybody how to sell. And it's kind of a mindset shift to just get past that. I don't know if it's imposter syndrome or ickiness or slimy sales activity. I don't know what that label is that makes people uncomfortable with it. But the way that I like people to try to understand it is you're actually just helping your client. or soon to be client. That's all it is. And if you're genuinely showing up to help and you're genuinely showing up to add value, you're not really selling anything. It should be quite a natural feeling, organic process to start and work together. By the time you get to the end of the process, if you've done your job well, there should be no making someone feel sold, because here's one of the things about that. When you trick somebody into buying something, when you use, like closing techniques, if you will, a nice way of saying it, you're winning a temporary client because they don't feel good about the transaction afterwards. Whereas if you just go through a process of helping your customer, they will feel good about the transaction at the end of the process. And then you've got somebody that will work with you again and again. So, retention is an important part to look at. If someone's not redoing business with you, you've got to ask yourself, why not? So retention-based business and new business, two different topics. Again, we could go quite deep on, but they should want to do business with you again because the process of doing business with you is so good.
Totally, wholeheartedly agree. You made me think about, you mentioned purpose and friends that were in mental health struggles, and just having them have some purpose is really valuable. And you absolutely nailed the word that I fully agree with around sales, which is help. Come with a help mindset, and it's a whole lot better. And I find what also goes really well there is understanding some purpose around what it is in your organization is doing. And I was doing some work with they're actually a property management company, but their purpose is to provide shelter to the world. Basic human need. We all need shelter. And I thought that was a really powerful combo of going, what's your purpose here? And it doesn't have to be shelter. It might be something more relevant to you as an organization in, helping someone experience their dream home, or living in a beautiful environment, or somewhere that is the center of their family's heart, whatever it is for you that's relevant for your organization. But if you're coming to the sales conversation with, hey, we've got this purpose here that we help people or families do, or organizations do ABC, and we come with a help mindset. Wow, that's such a powerful mindset to be joining a sales conversation with.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with the concept of purpose. With our framework that we've built that helps businesses develop their strategy, core purpose sits at the very core of strategy, in our opinion. And that's the first thing that we do with an organization, because a purpose becomes the lens that you look through all of the rest of your decisions that follow. And so if you've got a well-defined core purpose, all of your strategic decisions, your sales process, your marketing, everything will fall in line to reinforce and enhance what sits at the core of the business. And the thing about purpose is oftentimes people get sort of confuddled, if I can use a non-word, confuddled about, is it my personal purpose? Is it the business purpose? Yeah, how do I reconcile my personal purpose with the business purpose? The thing is, the person the founder, the people person who started the company usually have a purpose that has driven that company. When you can uncover and unlock that purpose, usually what you'll find is the people that fit the culture, that purpose resonates with them. It doesn't have to be the same. You don't have to have the same purpose, but it will resonate with them. It's something that they can believe in and get behind. That unlocks a massive amount of momentum. But it also, if it resonates with your people and they believe what you believe, your customers, it will resonate with them, and then they will believe what you believe. And now doing work together, again, feels really natural and organic. If something is in conflict with your purpose, it won't work. We've all experienced a customer that doesn't align with us, and out of need or desire to grow a business, we do the transaction anyway. Never goes well, always ends badly. So if you can uncover your purpose, align your purpose with the type of people you want to do business with and the type of people that you want working for you, man, does it smooth the way for the sales process, your marketing, your people, your values, your behaviors. It pretty much is the most important thing I think you can uncover in a business. And it certainly makes strategic decisions easier. If you're forced to make right now, a lot of people listening are facing some very, very difficult decisions. If you're clear in your purpose and your values, those decisions will be they'll still be hard decisions, but they'll be easier to make because you'll be able to reconcile it and still sleep at night. And that's a good measure, you know. If you can make the decision and then have a good night's sleep, you're probably okay with the decision.
Yeah. I think one of my business values is I always want to be able to walk down the street, bump into anyone I've ever done business with, and be comfortable going up to say hello.
Oh, that's so good.
I think it was probably my upbringing, strong, valued family, probably guidance from my father that was always like, shake hands, look people in the eye, use your manners, all those kind of good things. And I've just never been comfortable with trying to be disingenuous. I think is probably a word that comes to mind for me, of going, if I'm having a conversation with someone whether we're talking about sales here, but in a sales context, I want to be genuine with the person. If I can't help them, I'll tell them. If I can, I'll tell them I will. There's no white shoe shuffle going on under the desk.
Yeah, that's cool. Upbringing is certainly one I remember when I was about 14 or 15, and it was like a Saturday morning. It was 5 a.m. It was my first job, probably my second job as a 15-year-old. And I had been naughty with my friends the night before and got drunk as a young, impressionable teenager. I was hungover as hell. And I start work at 5:15 to open up the gas station, right? And 10 past 5, I'm still in bed wickedly hungover. And these thumping footsteps come storming across the floor. My door flies open. My stepfather goes, "Get out of bed!" It grabs me by my collar, marches me down to the car, throws me in the car, and goes, "Get your ass to work." Drives me to work, drops me off, and is like, "Don't you do that again." I have never in my life missed a day of work or been late for work because of that lesson. And to his credit, nor has he. So no matter how unwell I am, how tired I am, hungover, does not matter. I will do what I say I do and show up. So that's a similar lesson from upbringing. But I think as well, I just by nature observe things around me all the time. And you find these moments in life where you see the way somebody else has done something and you clock it and you go, that's not how I would ever like to do something. And for some reason, it's like a light bulb moment and you carry that with you. And it helps you shape how you want to conduct yourself based on what you've observed other people do. That was why I was interested to know whether you'd observed something like that. But for me, I try to pay attention to other people and learn from the mistakes other people make so I don't have to make the same ones,
Smart approach to life. Let's not reinvent the wheel.
Yeah. Cool.
Hey, Logan, it's been a really valuable discussion on the podcast today. Thanks again for your time. I think those key themes we've talked about of mental wealth. I loved your, what did you refer to as the mind platter?
The healthy mind platter, 6 key things.
Healthy mind platter. Yeah, I like that. I've got something similar that I learned from somewhere else, and every morning I go, how am I tracking? There's 5 in the one that I use, but how am I tracking on those 5? It gives good reflection. And then insights around how we think about our business wealth in the same way. What do we need to be doing in our organizations to make sure we're doing the right things? I love the bold red or green, nothing in between, and having the honest conversations about what do we need to do to fix it, because it's not a blame game, right? It's like this indicator's red, what can we do to fix it? Or as you also mentioned, this one's green, what can we do to amplify it? I think there's such good questions to be asking. In closing, I have a couple of things. How do people get in contact with you if they're like, oh, I love what this guy's got to say, I'd like to learn more, or do you have any kind of resources that maybe people can get a hold of?
Mate, I've got so many resources that I give away. Part of our culture, our ethos, if you will, is what we call give first. I like to give away IP, thinking, tools, frameworks, give all of that stuff away so that people can use them themselves. The time will come where they either want to work with us or they don't. I've got several books that I've written on sales. They're published in bookstores, but I have PDFs of them if people want an emailable PDF. I've got a sales process framework. I've got a instruction manual, what we call a leadership guide on how to execute. If people want to trial the platform, it's just beyondstrategy.ai. And if they fill in the form and just maybe put Elevate as a keyword in the box, and then I can give people a free trial. And then advisory.works is my consulting firm. And on that, actually, we've got a resource there in the resources section, which is a self-assessment tool. So those core frameworks that I talked about, there's a few questions on there. Anyone can go in and answer those questions, and it immediately emails you a report automatically that shows you where you've got areas of strength and where you're in the red. So again, it's red or green. And that can just be really useful, because if you just find 3 things and fix those, it was worth your while. So those are the key things. But if anybody emails or contacts through those websites, I can give them any resources they want. And then if anybody wants to have a call with me, they can book that in with my team as well.
Thanks, Logan. Amazing. And we'll make sure we put those links in the show notes so people can access those nice and easily. Okay, 2 final questions. Favorite song on the guitar?
Oh, on the guitar? I should have been ready for it. I really don't know what my favorite one is to play. What I like to do, the truth is, what I do is I like to put on YouTube, and I like to just let it spin out, and then I will just listen and randomly play my own solos and things over the top of the songs as they spin out. And I like to do that because it keeps me on my toes and kind of challenges me to see what I can come up with.
I like it. Answered like a true consultant. Final question: if you could surf any break in the world, what surf break would you be riding?
Mate, there is nowhere in the world that I would rather be than our own shore, Tawharanui Beach. I'm not a really confident surfer. To me, Tawharanui Beach is the most beautiful beach in New Zealand, and it's kind enough that if you get it wrong, you don't get too smashed, but you can still have some good fun out there. So Tawharanui or Waipu Cove would be my two picks. Yeah, but anywhere in the world, and I mean that genuinely, I would rather be in the water in New Zealand than anywhere else in the world. I love this country, so cool.
I love that. And you only got the answer mildly wrong, because the best surf beach in New Zealand is Whangamata, of course, but I have an appreciation for Tawharanui as well.
Hard to argue with you there. Yeah.
Hey, Logan, it's been a joy. Thanks again for sharing your wisdom and knowledge with us. And I'd really encourage anyone listening to reach out to Logan via the links we'll put in the show notes. Make the most of the resources. He's very genuine in the give first principle. So make the most of it. Thanks again, Logan.
Cool. Thank you, Ryan.